Flags. Those banners that flap in the wind, telling you whose laws you have to obey. Flags don't have to just be for countries. Flags are just symbols, and symbols can be for any wacky idea your little heart desires. As a nerd who likes history, I'm quite fond of flags. And if you clicked on this video, you're a nerd who likes flags too. So, yeah, let's just talk about them. I did a video once where I just talked about national anthems, and it did pretty well, so I decided to do the same exact thing, a Q&A. On Twitter, you all asked me zany questions related to flags, and I'm gonna answer them. Or at least, use them as a way to format pretty unrelated topics. Okay, let's do this.
Since when have we had flags to represent countries? Was it always this way?
Flags are first and foremost tools in warfare, or at least they started off as that. They originated for coordination in military campaigns. Standards were the symbol of our team, for lack of better words, and if the flag or standard was lost, then more than likely your army was lost too. So it was kind of a big deal to never lose the standard. If you think about it, Capture the Flag is probably the oldest game mode in human history. Flags weren't simply militaristic, heraldry for royalty, rallying symbols for saints. In the last 2 centuries, flags have taken on an entirely different purpose. Now they are tools for politics, but that emotional impact that they have on people still hasn't changed at all.
You should mention how certain continents/culture share same flag colors.
Yeah, so flags represent a country's history and culture, so it's not a shock that neighbors often share similar colors. And if you've ever looked at the flags of the world, you would see that similar colors start popping up from here or there.
Red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue are the most used color combinations. They're everywhere. And as always, the first people to blame for this are the Dutch. The Dutch fought their own war for independence against the Spanish, and came out a republic. There were 2 reactions to the existence of this flag. Some, like the French, saw the tricolor as a symbol against monarchy and for revolution. Peter the Great, on the other hand, the exact opposite of what that flag stood for, really liked how it looked. So he made it the Russian civil flag. And then when the Southern Slavs won their independence from the Ottomans, they just adopted the colors of the biggest Slavic empire. This is why Europe has so many tricolor flags. They're either copying the Russians or copying the French, who both copied the Dutch. For the Anglo world, that red, white, and blue combo kinda was just a coincidence after smashing together the St. George's and St. Andrew's cross. Arab flags are based on the flag of the Pan-Arab Revolt. Look at the Ottomans, shaping so many people's national identities. Green has always been a prominent color in Islam. It's seen as the color of paradise. White and black in some way were used by the original caliphates. Ethiopia. It successfully fought off various invasions, soon making it an inspiration for independence movements and revolutionaries both in Africa and abroad. The Ethiopian flag didn't actually exist until the late 19th century. The colors, however, are much older. Ecuador, Venezuela, and Colombia all descended from Gran Colombia, Simon Bolivar's dream of a super-state that sadly collapsed soon after winning independence from Spain. The same goes for Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. All were once a part of the Federal Republic of Central America. I mean, do I even need to really explain this? They're all based off the Danish flag. Nobody really knows where the Danish flag really came from. It's the oldest continuously used flag in the world, 800 years. It was said to have dropped from the sky, like God was saying, hey, this is a pretty neat design, go use it, and it stuck around forever. Across the world, there's a bunch of smaller little similarities, like how Central Asian nations like to use this overly complicated pattern based off of elaborate rugs, but there's only so much time I got.
What is a flag proposal you wish was picked over an official one?
It sure would be a bold move of me to tell an entire nation they made the wrong choice when picking their flag. What looks good is subjective, but in my opinion, I think China should have chose this flag in 1949, only because it looks like something that would represent a totalitarian state a billion strong. Outside of that, I mean, there isn't really many flags I would change. Now that I'm thinking about it, the fact New Zealand didn't change its flag at all actually kind of disappointed me. New Zealand's a pretty unique land with a fascinating blend of different cultures, yet it's often just confused with the Australian flag. It's got the Union Jack in the corner, which is one of the gravest sins a flag can commit. Personally, the flag they put up against the current one wasn't even the best looking design. At least this one had a decent color scheme. It's not like any of these opinions matter though, because we all know what flag should have truly won. So the person that asked me this question brought up the Nordic cross being proposed for Germany. It was red, black, and gold, because Germany, the tricolor at least has some history in the revolutions of 1848, but having a Nordic cross would just confuse everyone, undermining the legitimacy of the new German states. But it would annoy Scandinavia, which would be kind of funny.
What country flag looks the most out of place considering their neighbors?
Not taking into account the countries that just changed their aesthetic to communism, there are some flags that are just a tad different. Most of them are in the Balkans. In fact, I think I'm just gonna include the entire Balkans. That's my answer.
What is the least fitting flag for a country in your opinion?
If we're counting state flags, I'm going to say Hawaii, for obvious reasons, which is ironic considering this flag was made when Hawaii was a kingdom with a monarch. The monarch just loved the flag design and wanted to be a British ally, but by doing so, he just forever associated these islands with the Union Jack, despite never being a British colony. And I know I'm not alone, because it's probably why this flag started taking off in the last 2 decades. There's this myth that it was the original Hawaiian flag, but sorry to burst your bubble, Hawaiians, it wasn't. This is a recent creation. You had an original flag for the kingdom, it just happens to suck.
Why does the Ohio flag look like this?
As an Ohioan, growing up with this flag was something that I noticed, but I never really thought it was that strange. You know, until I became older, and then I realized, oh, nobody has this flag shape other than like Nepal, kind of. I've always loved this flag though. It's helped the most average state in the US be a little distinct. When trying to uncover why the flag is shaped like that, every answer I ended up getting was simply, it's because the original flag designer John Eisenman wanted it to be like that. Like, that's the best answer. It was for the 1901 World's Fair and was adopted as the flag the next year. Now, some have suggested that it was based on the pennants that were flown by the Ohio Cavalry during the Civil War, but Eisenman never said where he really got the idea from, so this is pretty much just a guess. It may be as simple as the state just wanted to be different, and while today it's associated with anything Buckeye, for a while this flag was just seen as strange. I found this editorial in 1903 that just made fun of the flag, said that most Ohioans probably didn't even know they had a state flag, because hilariously the only person who flew it after a year was the governor himself.
Which category of ideology-based flags do you think have the best designs?
Pirate flags, baby! My ideology is to sail the 7 seas. Look at all these Jolly Rogers. Time to sail the Grand Line. I'm gonna be king of the pirate.
Why did the seal on bedsheet formula become so popular?
State flags are only a product of the last century. They were never really thought about that much until relatively recently. This blue background that we see on so many flags was chosen intentionally because it was the least offensive design. The reason these states seem to fade together is because that was the point. At one time, state flags were seen as disrespecting the American flag. They were seen as un-American. Which, considering the war that just happened a few decades earlier, a lot of people weren't really too keen on state individuality. In fact, Maine actually had a good flag for about 8 years, and then switched to a generic blue design because it was seen as more patriotic. It was swapped because state politicians who were former Civil War vets wanted the state to be closer to the Union. Recently, though, there have been a lot of calls to switch the flag back. Allegiance with the federal government isn't the only reason, though. A good-looking flag is something that takes time to come up with, and for your local representative, that means another annoying committee about something they probably don't care about.
What happens if America makes too many states and we can't put more stars in the banner?
We'll nuke 10 states at random. That should save some space.
What modern flags do you feel are significantly worse than the older ones?
The original 13-star flag, by far the best design. It's been downhill ever since. And it's not simply because these two flags kind of symbolize entirely different ideologies, it's because our current American flag is incredibly complicated. I know it sounds dumb to complain about, but when you actually think about the evolution of the American flag over 2 centuries, it actually seems kind of hilarious. For us today, the inclusion of more stars on the flag isn't really a big deal. It's just a time lapse by scrolling through Wikipedia. Yet imagine actually living during the 19th century, where your nation's flag would update more often than a Windows operating system. Did any foreign embassies ever get incredibly annoyed because they had to just toss out the old banner because North Dakota was added? The 49-star flag had a long, fulfilling run of 8 months. I get that no state wants to feel left out, but there was never a rule that the flag needed to keep adding stars. This was something early America just made up. This could have been prevented early on if everyone just agreed that the 13 stars were symbolic of the original 13 colonies, a symbol of the revolution or whatever. Nobody said it had to be a live counter of how many states were currently in the Union. Speaking of the US flag, this is the Easton flag, which was a version that comedically reversed the stars and stripes. As you see, it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek creation. The original 1777 US flag law never actually described where the stars and stripes should actually be. So by the original precedent, this technically isn't wrong. To be honest, I kind of like it. It's like a glimpse of an alternate world where the US decided to just be Australia instead.
The Mozambique flag has the shooty bang bang guns on it. What's up with that?
Communism and revolution, baby. AKs were used by Marxist rebels in their war for independence against the Portuguese, and the rifle was seen as a symbol of defense and the revolution itself. It's like the modern version of putting a sword on your flag. Who knows, maybe in the future some nation's gonna slap a robot with a gun on its flag.
Are there any flags of fictional places you like?
Bringing 40k into any conversation is pretty much cheating, but I love the symbol of the Imperium. I know, it's a bold claim. It's probably my favorite symbol in science fiction. Is 40k science fiction? Double-hunted eagles are already a great design, but the Imperium Aquila is a step above. It's simplistic, regal, yet futuristic. It's the perfect encapsulation of what the 40k setting really is. While not flags, I've always loved the symbols and heralds in Game of Thrones. Yes, Jimmy, just like Game of Thrones. The Targaryen symbol, for one, is a pretty ingenious design, symbolizing Aegon the Conqueror and his 2 sisters. It's able to look medieval, but also be its own thing without resembling King Ghidorah. I like the NCR flag more than the current California flag. I think anybody does. In terms of alternate history, there aren't a ton of flags I really like from most media. Oftentimes a flag is just slapping 2 designs together and calling it a day. But within the same series, I actually like the Pacific States flag. It's Japanese, but incorporates the red, white, and blue pretty well. Templin Institute has a good video that goes into great detail about all of these flags. I recommend it.
Do you think some colors are overlooked? Which color do you wish more flags would use?
Purple. Purple dye historically was incredibly expensive, so it's not a shock that it was just never used. It's become associated with monarchy because only the richest could make purple dye. The Byzantine royals loved to wear purple as a symbol of their wealth, which is where we got the association with Eastern Rome and that color. There's even a shade of purple called Byzantium. Funnily enough though, despite their insignia often appearing on a purple banner, they never used it on their flags. The Byzantines mostly used the cheapest dye of red for their flags. They were still Roman after all. Today, purple on flags is rare because you have to replicate a lot of them. Only 2 countries today even have it on their flags. And it's a shame because outside of the Spanish Republic, it was never really used. There's a whole market out there for potential flag designs using purple. I don't know, that's probably why whenever I make a fictional nation, I always make its flag purple.
Can you talk about city flags?
No.
You should talk about the concept flags for both Antarctica and Mars.
I love the concept of flags for places where nobody lives. There's no history to them, so it's fun seeing all the different interpretations for the same places. Starting off with Antarctica, I don't like any flag that just has the continent shape on it. There have been many ideas, but I think my favorite design is this one. It's apparently already in use, so it's the most official, unofficial flag. If you choose a flag with a penguin on it, that works too. Now Mars is tricky, because how can you have a flag for an entire planet? It's likely that when humans do go to Mars, the flags that they fly will be their own flag, and Mars, just like Earth, may one day be made up of multiple different flags. Most of these are just alright. There's a common theme of having Mars on the flag, which works better than Antarctica, but it's still not great. My favorite is probably the flag referencing the novels Red Mars, Green Mars, and Blue Mars. Terraforming is basically science fantasy for us right now, but I believe making Mars much like Earth will be a real dream for future colonists. Yeah, the flag is another tricolor, but I think it helps symbolize a very real optimism colonial Martians will have for centuries. I'm just kidding. We all know the best flag for Mars is the symbol of the Mechanicus.
Best American Civil War faction flag in Kaiserreich.
The Syndicalist flag. It's the most distinct. The US and American Union pretty much copied each other's homework, then California and New England just have their own regional flags. So, good on you, Syndicalists. You were original.
Out of all the microstates, which flag is your favorite?
Vatican City.
What's Wallachhia's flag?
It's this. It's actually pretty neat. You never see many eagles with this pose, maybe except for Mexico. It's actually a shame that as much as pop culture talks about Wallachia, we never actually see this symbol. Use it more often. Don't just talk about Dracula.
Conclusion.
So, yeah, who said this has to be a one-time thing? What flag is that, Jimmy? Oh, it's the flag of my nation, North Jimistan. Is there a South Jimistan? No. It's very confusing. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Almost as unfortunate as hackers getting your online information. Of course this was a sponsor bit, that's the only time you ever talk to me. That's not true. It's just sometimes, I really want to talk about NordVPN, the sponsor of today's video. NordVPN wants to keep you informed on cybersecurity and what actions you can take now to protect yourself online. Let's talk about password stuffing. You, like most, probably use the same password for everything. But what happens if even one of those passwords end up compromised? They can end up on the dark web or hacker forums. These passwords and usernames are then entered into every site imaginable, like Facebook or Netflix, in an attempt to get those accounts too. And if you happen to use the same passwords, you just compromised those as well. So what's the solution to this? Well, isn't it obvious? Yes, it is. Always create a unique password and update them regularly. If they have a two-factor authenticator, that's even better. Or even use products like NordPass, which are specifically built to inform you if your passwords have been compromised. Now in the meantime, you can keep your information safe with NordVPN. By going to nordvpn.com/althist, you can have a huge discount on a 2-year plan of NordVPN, plus 4 additional months for free. I personally use NordVPN all the time. I love the interface and the 5,400 plus servers in 59 countries. Where even am I? Even I don't know. So if you're interested, click on the link nordvpn.com/althist. There's no risk to do so with their 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you want to start feeling protected on the internet, don't simply leave it up to chance. Go to nordvpn.com/althist to gain a new level of protection and security today. Let's hope North Jimistan has the same level of protection. Ha ha ha, it doesn't.